Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want to talk about the chart of Kamala Harris. And one of the main reasons why I thought her chart was so interesting was because she has a certain combination in her chart that I think is astounding. Every person that has these combinations in their chart has something truly interesting that happens in their life. Well, actually, there's a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to go over is the fact that, let's pull up Kamala Harris's chart, which she has Gemini ascendant. Gemini ascendant, Mercury is the ruler. So people with this ascendant are very much into education, learning, traveling, everything to do that promotes their learning, because they're constantly learning and curious about everything. But notice her ascendant degree, which is around 1 degree of Gemini. Rahu sits exactly on it. Now, Rahu is destiny. Rahu is major events that change a life in an instant. Rahu is the indicator of destiny. And when I see it on the ascendant, or K2, exactly, the closer it is in orb, the more intense the destiny aspect of their life. And as a matter of fact, one of the other people that I know that have Rahu almost the same degree as the ascendant degree in their chart is John Kennedy Jr. So you know the destiny and how his life went. It was extreme. His mother, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, has K2 right on the ascendant. And we know how her destiny was so extreme. These are lives that things happen that change their whole destiny. And Kamala Harris has this. Now, the other aspect that I think is phenomenal in her chart is the fact that she has Mars debilitated in Cancer, but the moon is in Aries. This is what we call in Vedic astrology parivartana, and it is a mutual exchange of signs, but it is so powerful. It changes the energy and dynamic of the planets. As a matter of fact, this debilitated Mars and Cancer's energy changes. It's no longer debilitated when it's in this mutual exchange with the moon. And if you'll look at that moon, look where it is and look where Mars is. Mars sits in the 2nd house and the moon is in the 11th house. These are the houses of wealth and money. The 11th house is the house of great gains, money that comes in huge, large sums. Whereas the 2nd house is the money we earn. It's the way we make money. It is our income. And whenever you have any combination of planets, ruler of the 11th, in the 2nd, ruler of the 2nd in the 11th, and in this case, a mutual exchange where the ruler of the 2nd is in the 11th, but exchanges back because the ruler of the 11th is in the 2nd. This brings great wealth, always. I've never seen this not to really prove its value and its point. As a matter of fact, a person that has a really good connection between the 2nd and the 11th house in this way is Oprah Winfrey. Look at how she is a self-made woman, multimillionaire, billionaire. Well, Kamala Harris has this aspect of great wealth as well. And look, she has made it. She is the Vice President of the United States. This doesn't come easy. This takes a heck of a lot of work. And it takes a heck of a lot of courage And a debilitated Mars is not the most courageous one on Earth. But in her case, her Mars exchanges with the moon. And the moon, being in Aries, is probably what happens actually with the parivartana yoga is that these planets exchange and become like Mars is in Aries and the moon is in Cancer. Think of how powerful that is. So if you have the moon in Cancer in the second house and Mars in Aries in the 11th house, this is another indicator of great wealth and great courage. And I gotta say this, she has quite a voice on her. Why? Because the second house is also our voice. It's how we express ourselves through the voice. And the fact that it does this exchange, she doesn't come off well sometimes with Mars being in Cancer. But this exchange, she gets what she wants. So she has this power. And another thing is, she has been looked upon as being very strong and not always speaking so tactfully. And I believe if she was a man, this wouldn't count. But because she's a woman, she will be definitely scrutinized more because women aren't known to be this cutthroat. And yes, this aspect represents that through her voice, she can be very cutthroat, get to the point, get what she wants. Women are frowned upon for being achievers like that. Men, it's okay. But for her, yes, it's all different. So she might have to soften her ways a little bit because I don't think she's getting great press right now, depending on who you listen to. But in other words, her voice is strong and it is powerful. And yes, she's gotten to where she is because of it. Now, some other aspects in this chart are very meaningful, such as her chart ruler, which her ascendant being Gemini. Gemini's ruled by Mercury. So her chart ruler is Mercury, and it sits in the 5th house. The 5th house is the house that deals with creativity, with talent, and intelligence. This woman, you can't put it past her, she's smart. And not only that, whenever I see the moon and Mercury aspecting each other, conjunct or opposed, this tells me this is an individual that never stops thinking, constantly planning, constantly learning, constantly processing, have a hard time sleeping at night because they never stop the mental chatter. It's like their mind is constantly on overload. That's what I see with the Mercury with the moon. Now, the moon being in the 11th house deals with groups, friends, and organizations. And Mercury throwing its aspect there, she will be the leader in many organizations and probably has throughout her life with this 5th house and 11th house opposition going on with Mercury and the moon. Now, the sun, she was born under a totally bright moon. So her moon and her sun are both 4 degrees in opposition, with Libra opposed to Aries. And this is anytime you have the moon and sun in opposition, you have a full moon. And full moon brings awareness, brightness to the mind in Vedic astrology because the moon represents consciousness, awareness, and the mind. And if you just consider the full moon lights up the night sky. So it casts light into darkness. So her mind is agile, it's bright. She sees everything, the big picture. But, you know, her Rahu being here in the first house on the ascendant, no matter what she does, there's a certain destiny that is going to be put into action in her life. This is for sure. Now, another thing I noticed, but I haven't heard much about, is the fact that she has Venus with Pluto. And Venus-Pluto types usually have much to do with betrayal. So I don't know much about her history in relationships or family, but I guarantee you there's this depth and there's this hurt about betrayal. And sometimes if we let these kind of resentments come into our lives, they can control us in a not so positive way. So I hope she gets a handle on this. So another thing that I think is very interesting is the fact that she has Saturn in her 9th house. Now, the 9th house is the house of truth and spirituality. And Saturn there means you usually are a little bit cynical about religion and spirituality. It's not something that you believe in, because Saturn sort of like makes you criticize or pull back from that. And I have to say, the Saturn being in Aquarius, there's something about humanity that maybe she's like over it. It's like, you know, people, humanity, they're just not ever going to change. She may have this type of attitude. Hopefully not, because that can really put a negative damper on the way you feel about others in the world. And usually when Saturn being in the 9th house, the 9th house being teachers and the father, sometimes that can also relate to a coldness or a detachment from the father. But I know that Saturn being in the 9th house, there was a certain discipline that she had to have in terms of school and education. Because, I mean, she was a lawyer and a very successful one to get to where she is. So this really amounted to a lot of hard work, putting her mind to it. And what I'm looking at is I'm thinking about her Saturn being in the 9th house. And her Saturn sits at 5 degrees of Aquarius. And this is what I found very, very interesting, because the last few days of July, this is going to be when Jupiter and Mars oppose each other from Leo to Aquarius. So Jupiter is going to be on her Saturn, which anytime Jupiter transits over a planet, it is always an opportunity, okay? And Jupiter-Saturn contacts always have to do with an opportunity. So there's this big opportunity. And with Mars being there, 5 degrees of Leo, casting its aspect to Jupiter, both aspecting simultaneously her natal Saturn, there is a huge opportunity coming for her. And I don't even know if she's going to be given the opportunity to take lead, because this is a powerful opposition, and this opposition happens to be exactly aspecting her natal Saturn. This is big. This happens around the end of July. So there is a huge opportunity. And I will say this, moving forward into next April of 2022, when Jupiter transits into Pisces, it's going to go into her 10th house. The 10th house is the house of career, social standing, being in front of the world, your reputation, and Jupiter being in Pisces in her 10th house. This could be a major rise for her in position. And this is between April of 2022 through April of 2023. That's the time that Jupiter will be in her 10th house. And this could give her rise to a higher position, which we all know what that could be. So her chart is about to take off in many respects. But after that, I think it's going to be a rough time and road, because who doesn't have a hard time being the lead commander? It's tough. And with Rahu being on her ascendant, the future will be very, very interesting. It's going to be, expect the unexpected. That's what I'll say, because that's what I've seen with people that have Rahu on the ascendant. They may make a certain plan to go a certain direction, but the universe is going to take them in a whole different direction than they possibly could have planned. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing. But one more thing, noticing in her chart, Jupiter being in the 12th house. The 12th house is foreign lands and countries. And she will be visiting many foreign places in the very near future, because Jupiter does rule her 10th house of her work and her career. And many leaders have 12th house planets because they deal with foreign affairs. So we're going to see some changes, like it or not. Whether people like her or don't like her, it doesn't matter. This is what the chart is indicating. And this is where she's headed. But the reason for this video, actually, is that I wanted to really make point of the parivartana yoga, because it is such a powerful yoga and always produces its results. And this is, if she didn't have this parivartana yoga in her chart, she wouldn't be where she is or who she is. And that's a fact. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me, sign up for my free newsletter where you get all of my predictions delivered to your email address. Go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. While you're there, check out my beautiful spiritual jewelry. I have spiritual malas and things to remind us of our spiritual connection while on planet Earth. And if you want to study Vedic astrology with me, go to my university website, universityofvedicastrology.com. It's an amazing group of Vedic astrologers that you will learn so much about. So I hope to see you there. Thank you.